Last week, a viewer requested a tutorial on painting yellow in a grimdark style. With today's model, I'll be showing you both it and a cleaner look. Generally being a transparent paint, working over black will provide its challenges, so it is often recommended to build up from another color. There is no correct choice as different undertones will yield different results, which may or may not be what you're looking for. The paint I'm using does build up pretty well after 3 coats independent of its undertone. Still, I decided to go for a single layer of grey over the black, and followed it up with 2 thin coats of ochre brown, to establish my base coat of darkish yellow from where I'll build up the color. Whichever color you choose to begin with, the most important thing is to allow each layer to fully dry. More often than not, I see people get anxious and not only apply thick layers of paint in an effort to be done with the base coating faster, but also having the previous layer lift up due to not giving it enough time to dry. Properly spreading the paint and giving it its time to dry, I was able to get a solid yellow from 3 slightly diluted layers of paint, 1 of grey and 2 of ochre. Before I start highlighting, I'll note that since I'll be doing some washing in the end, some spots where a light from above should be placed, I'll be ignoring since I know wash will be pulling there. Just something to have in mind if you do work with washes often. While convenient to create shadows, they do limit the artistic choices when it comes to light placement. I'll be doing 2 layers of highlights, first of a 50-50 mix of ochre brown and sun yellow, and a follow-up of pure sun yellow. As you work, paint you pick up will begin to dry, so to maintain precision, remember to rinse your brush as you work. Once every 3 or 4 times you pick up paint will be enough to keep your brush's tip sharp. Even if you're a beginner, using the side of your brush to paint thin textures such as the folds of the clothing will prevent any mishaps you may have if you were to try and trace the detail pointing at it. This way, my brush is only able to reach the raised details, no matter how much I press. For the other half of the model, which if you haven't noticed is decaying, I'll take a different approach, by using an old brush to do a bit of tippling, so as to build up texture on my highlights. And the side of the brush will work just as well with this technique also. As I move on to my brighter highlights, I'll remind you to twist and pull your brush as you work the paint into it, to avoid having too much as well as to shape the tip before beginning the more precise work. Since my initial layer left quite a jump in color, I added a bit of water so to keep the transition as smooth as possible. There is no much difference between this step compared to the one before, but to try and keep the brighter highlights within the previous one, and if not possible, maybe making them shorter. With the highlights ready, I'll finish off both sides with a pair of glazes. The previously used ochre brown to blend everything on the clean side and the more greenish English uniform for the decayed one. I mixed a drop of paint with 3 drops of water, but ended up adding a 4th one off camera. This is not a wash, and so I make sure to remove excess from my brush so as to have full control of how much paint I apply. My aim is to apply a single layer to work as a filter. This shouldn't have that big of an impact visually. I am looking for a hint of a better blend on the clean side as well as a hint of dirtiness on the decayed one. Where both colors meet, I'll just blend them wet on wet. The key here is to spread the paint evenly and that none of it pulls on the recesses. Wherever I see paint pulling, I'll just pick it back up with my brush and clean it on the paper towel. While I wanted to differentiate both sides of the model from one another, I didn't want them to stand out from each other too much. On the back we can appreciate the transition I accomplished, while still keeping both sides within the same spectrum. After painting the rest of the model, I'd say the yellow was a success. But I'm sure the subscriber who requested this will not be satisfied until, like any of my grimdark projects, I whip out the oils. While I'm sure many of you have watched my last video on all I know about oil washes, I'm still going to go over the steps of a simple light wash for any newcomers to my channel. For more information, you can always refer to my last video. I mixed a bit of green into brown on 1 cup for the decayed side, and a bit more brown for the quote-unquote clean one. The wash, like any other, was applied from top to bottom, allowing it to run and pull, and helping it flow wherever I saw too much group up, before I continued adding more. Once the whole model was covered, I left it to the side around an hour, so the white spirits I used to dilute the oils could evaporate. From there, I took a Q-tip, soaked it in spirits, removed the excess and began to clean off the oil from the raised details, mostly over on the clean side. With a dry soft brush, I feathered any clumps of oil, cleaning anything I picked up on a paper towel before moving on to another section. Since some of the oil got inevitably blended over the raised details, I finished up with a second cleanup with the Q-tips. I hope you and the subscriber who requested this topic find the video useful. Special thanks to my patrons Keob, Cedric, Alex Amosas and Moradin. If you have any suggestions yourself, feel free to leave them in the comments. But for now, thank you for watching.